Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today, we're going to be talking about world whiskeys, and we're going to be doing a recap of all of the world whiskeys I've reviewed in 2022, which was actually several of them. So, I consider a world whiskey, like everybody else, to be Canada, Australia, let's say England, India, basically anywhere that's not one of the big guys, right? So, let's go ahead and start with. First, we're starting with an honorable mention. Now, this is a fantastic whiskey. I'm just putting that out there, but you can't buy it anymore. It's not available, and it is going to vary because it's a single barrel. So we're going to go just Found North with their first single barrel. This is their batch 1 release. I didn't want to put this in the ranking for those reasons I mentioned, but I did want to mention that I've almost drank this whole bottle, and it is super, super good. I'm actually likely going to be doing a barrel with Found North this year in 2023. So look for that, and there'll be way more details coming, as well as a live stream with Nick Taylor. It'll all be awesome. So let's go ahead into the actual list proper. First, we're going to start off with the bottom of my list, unfortunately, because I really like the distillery, but I don't really love this whiskey. This is the Starward Twofold. Now, Starward Twofold is a very inexpensive whiskey, especially, I know I said I wasn't going to focus on cost, but I will just for this one. It's very inexpensive, which is amazing because it's coming all the way from Australia over here to the US. But let's just think of it on its own merits, right? It's dull, honestly, and I'm so sorry, guys. I really like the rest of your stuff. This one's really dull, and I just don't think it's worth having. Even as like a mixer, it's fine, but on its own, it's meant to be a very easy to drink whiskey, and to me, it just kind of misses the mark by it being uninteresting, which unfortunately is probably like one of the worst insults I can give it. But I promise, some of your other stuff is higher on the list, Starward. I promise. All right, so I would ignore the Twofold. But let's actually skip back over to India, and we're going to go with the Paul John Select Cask Edited. Peated. Now, the peated is interesting. They do peat the same way that Scotland does, and it's derivative of a Scottish peated whiskey. It tastes very similar. It's got kind of like a barbecue smoke flavor. It tastes a little bit like bacon, which is interesting, and it's got like an earthy texture. But the reason I rated it so low is just overall it didn't do it for me. They have their edited, right? That's why I mentioned it. I have it on the brain. The Paul John Edited is a very good peated whiskey. This one is supposed to be them taking that and then trying to make like a select cask version. They're looking specifically for a flavor profile. It's like a yearly release, and to me, they just kind of missed this one. I would not suggest that you get this one. I did rate it at a try it, but realistically thinking back on it, I just think there's better options in Scotland for peated whiskeys than this one. It is what it is. Let's go on to another Starward. Now I'm going to sing some praises. So we've got the Starward Nova. Starward Nova is just a wonderful bottle. It is so heavily influenced by these sherry notes. It's red wine. Sorry, I said sherry. It's Australian red wine. It's Cabernet. It's Pinot. It's something else. I'll put it up on the screen here. I'm just trying to remember all this stuff, right? So it is delicious. It's so like easy to drink, and it would be something I would want to have as like a dessert wine, or just casually sipping and sitting on the couch. It's really, really good, and again, price super cheap. That is one of the things I love the most about this. Like, I couldn't believe this is only like $45 when I tasted it, because it's in line with things twice its price from Scotland. I absolutely think that you should try the Nova, and check out the video I did on it, because there's a lot more detail I give in there about why it's so good. All right, next is another Starward release, and this is the Starward Vitalis. This is a 15-year, not whiskey, but celebration of their distillery turning 15. And so they went and they chose handpicked barrels. Now, they're all 4 years old, so keep that in mind. But they're all 4 years old, but then they also went and they found barrels that had been aging in weird stuff, right? Not weird, but like tawny port, rum, apera, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, and then bourbon. And they mixed all those together. They had an idea in mind. They wanted to celebrate what they could do, and Starward themselves do some pretty cool stuff. So they do a lot of like limited release stuff over in Australia. So they really play around with their whiskey a lot, and I love that about their distillery. When we're talking about the Vitalis, that's something that we over in America and the rest of the world are able to finally try. And this is such a really good whiskey. It's $150, again, price. I totally put this at that being about right price. When I think about things like Compass Box, where they're doing very specific profiles and they're trying to make something, it doesn't really matter what the age is. They're trying to make a specific flavor. And that's what they did with the Vitalis, and I think that they nailed it. This is only overshadowed by the next two bottles because the next two bottles are so incredibly stellar that I could talk about them for a day. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to have to read a couple things off my notes here only because there's no way I would remember these. But let's go for the second best one. This is the Found North Batch 4. Now, this is a combination of all things from, sorry, again, reading 21 and 25-year-old corn, 18-year-old rye, and then aged in ex-Speyside casks and American oak. So that's awesome, first off. It's old, you know, and they're able to get these cool barrels to make something. But what this tastes like, it's like maple syrup, it's leather, it's oak. It's also got these notes of like vanilla and caramel from the bourbon. It's everything about this bottle is so delicious. As you can see, I have been hesitant to drink a whole lot of this because I know when this bottle's gone, it's gone for good. I drank most of this on a stream with Nick Taylor, who is one of the founders of the distillery. And whenever him and I get together, we just talk about this. And honestly, I wouldn't suggest so many people go back and rewatch my live streams because I know they're long. But this one, every time I have Nick on, it's just awesome. He's so knowledgeable and he'll talk about whiskey all day long, and he could talk circles around literally any whiskey tuber other than maybe Ralphie that you know. So as far as having him on, I would suggest you go watch this stream and where we talk in depth about the 4 and then the 3, which is my top pick of the year. So the batch 3 from Found North, 5 whiskey blend, 18-year-old rye in ex-tequila barrels, 18-year-old rye in ex-Speyside casks, 21-year-old corn aged in used American oak, 17-year-old rye, and 25-year-old corn, both of those being in Hungarian casks. The great thing about this one is how closely it mimics one of my favorite desserts, apple pie. It's like you taste it and, you know, you get apple pie is not an uncommon note in certain whiskeys. But when you taste this, you're like, wow, that is like caramel and butterscotch and nutmeg and apple, and just like it's warm and toasty and delicious, and everything about it is just so good. I absolutely love this whiskey, and when I look at the price, I feel like it is worth the price, which is rare. I'm usually very cheap. So I look at this and I'm like, 130 bucks all day long. Just like I would scoop it up for 150 if I saw it in the store. Now, here's the good news. You could buy both of these off their website, which I'll link below, because they're still available. I'm not getting a commission or anything like that. I just want you to have these in your collection. Well, that's my listing of world whiskeys for 2022, and I kind of stayed in a couple of very key spots, but that's okay. World whiskeys are a little tough. So if there's any that you know that you'd like me to review, definitely drop them down in the comments. And, you know, go out, buy these two. Just do it. Like, honestly, just do it. You will love both of them, but definitely get this one. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your year. And I hope to see you next year on 2023 on the Whiskey Dictionary. Cheers.